In this video, I will show you how I photographed and edited this photo to get from here to here. Hi, I'm Yannick from Sasha Photography, and let me show you how we photograph this photo. This is straight out of the camera, and this is our final result here. Okay, so let's go back to Bridge, and I'll show you the photos that we photographed here. So let me show you first how we photographed this photo. So we photographed this photo of my wife Sasha last week when we were in Arizona, just outside of Phoenix. I believe this area is called Tortilla Flat, and we were driving around and we saw this beautiful view, so we just stopped by, parked our car on the side, grabbed our lights out, just put an umbrella because it was really windy, put a lot of sandbags on the stand, and we photographed this photo. So even though you see it's a one light setup, we really use two lights, with the first light being the sun, lighting Sasha here from the back. So this is where you see the light on her back, and then her front was lit with the Indra 500 with a silver umbrella. Since we use the high-speed sync here, we had to use all the power, so that's why we used the silver umbrella without any diffuser and relatively close to Sasha, so that we could get the whole power, all the juice that the Indra 500 has. So this is basically how it looks like. You can see even on the side we have Sasha's shoes because she took them off in the last minute. We have the sign and the kind of bushes that are a bit distracting. So that's what we're going to edit later. You also see that in the bottom here, that's the road that we were driving. So we will kind of crop it tighter, during our edit. The second photo, this is the same photo but without the strobe in the frame. We took it so that we can remove the light in post-production. The settings on both photos are the same except the flash. I had to hold this camera above my head to get Sasha within the frame of the mountains, because if I was going a little bit lower, Sasha was sticking out more in the sky. So I had to shoot above my head with manual focus because I could not focus properly with the live screen. So I had to raise my camera above my head and the manual focus and shoot it. So I tried, when I removed the flash, I tried to go to the same place on the road to get exactly the same frame. But of course, since I didn't have a tripod, I do it just by feel. That the framing of the photo is not exactly the same. So if you go from this photo to this, you can see that there's a little bit difference in terms of the perspective and the frame, but luckily we're able to remove the light in post-production. I'll show you in just a second. So so these are the two files. Just to give you an idea, we shot this at f4.0, 1/2500 of a second, ISO 100, and we photographed this with a Pentax 645Z, which is almost like a medium format camera, not fully, but we really love this camera. The files are really beautiful coming out of this camera. Anything else and the focal length that we used for this photo was 55, which for 35 or like a regular DSLR, that's about 35 millimeters. So just kind of give you a comparison here. Okay, so let's select both these files, both these raw files, and open them in Camera Raw. Okay, so we will edit one of the photos here, and then we'll apply the same raw adjustments to the second photo so the files look exactly the same. So let's get to first the basic adjustments here. The white balance we didn't touch. We actually like the way it felt originally in the photo, so we didn't adjust the white balance. It's at 5050 and 14 plus 14 on the magenta. Kind of a good feel, nice neutral tones. The exposure, we didn't adjust it either. We adjusted the contrast a little bit to +4. Then we brought the highlights to -5. And then we opened the shadows quite a bit to plus, I believe, if I remember, I think 73. Let me, yeah, so something like that. So this was before, when we opened the shadows, and this is, with open shadows. The Pentax has because those raw files out of Pentax are very nice, when you open the shadows, it doesn't become unnatural. So you can open the shadows with the Pentax quite a bit without breaking the raw files. With other DSLRs, maybe with Canon or Nikon, you may be a little bit more careful with opening the shadows. I believe Sony, you can open the shadows pretty well as well. Now with the white, we did it +8, to basically give a little bit more punch here. And the blacks, I just reduced it to -1, just to give a little bit nice contrast. You can see that practically nothing is clipped, and nothing except the light. If you click on it, it's just the light here on the flash that is being clipped in the histogram. But otherwise, we have details across the whole frame. I adjusted the vibrance to +10 here. And that's about it on this screen. Let's go to the tone curve. And in tone curve, I adjusted the highlights to +5. I did the lights +3, so that my highlights are a little bit more punchy, a little bit higher. Still without clipping anything. It's just a little bit. Basically, this is just a way to add the contrast to the photo. And then I did darks. In the darks, I did -4. Okay, let's go to the next one. Sharpening. We added the sharpening to about 40, I think 40, 41. Let me try. Yeah, and then we mask it. Basically, masking is just protecting some of the areas that don't have edges. So we usually like to go pretty high on this. We are probably like let's say at 70. That's when you see those nice edges here. And to see those edges, you have to click Alt and move this slider, and that's how you see the edges on sharpening. In terms of the luminance noise reduction, we didn't do anything since we photograph at 100 ISO. Really, there's no need to reduce any noise. Okay, let's go now to the HSL. So first, let's add the saturation. The main saturation that we added here were in the aqua. So basically, is the sky here. A little bit in the blues. I think mine is like +12, and then the purple's +2. So basically, just to make the sky a little bit more rich and vibrant. So that's that's basically the adjustments that we did here. And then for the luminance, we did only darken the blues a little bit. So basically, that's how it is right now with the darker blues. So from here to here. So it's just the sky becomes a little bit darker without affecting the rest of the frame. Okay, let's go next. Split toning, we didn't do anything. Lens correction, we enabled remove chromatic aberration and enable profile correction. So this will automatically select the Pentax and our lens that we were using. So this is all we did here. And then dehaze, since there was a little bit of haze in the air, I'm gonna move the haze to about 5 or 6. So it's basically to give a little bit more punchiness in the photo and remove the haze that was in the air. So that's what we did here. And then the last thing we did here, we added the saturation in the blues up to 9. So this is all I did in Camera Raw. And the second photo that you see here is the one without the flash in the frame. So to apply the same changes, I shift and click on the second photo. So this way, both photos are selected now. And I'll right click and I'll do sync settings. And I want to do everything except crop, spot removal, local adjustments. Since I didn't do any local adjustments, basically everything needs to be synced. So now that I'm synced, and it'll show me that this photo is developed, now the second photo is developed the same way as the first one. One thing before we open in Photoshop, one thing that's very important to remember when you open a photo, especially with a sky like this, with a very gradual toning here, to change your bit setting from 8 to 16. So you click on the link below, and then you change it from 8 to 16. We always edit our photos in Adobe RGB color space. It's just our preference. So you see now, when I move from 8-bit to 16-bit, and I hope this on YouTube, when the video is rendered, you will see the difference. But before, when we are, let me try it again, so maybe you can see the difference better. There's a little bit of bending here going on in the sky, and then if I switch to 16-bit, basically this bending will go away. So that's why it's very important when you have a sky like this, or any gradation in the colors, is to really edit the photo in 16-bit and then convert to 8-bit at the last moment, or even save in with the 16-bit format. But that's very important. So I just want to make sure that both our files are in 16-bit settings. They are. Okay, so then the next step is basically you select both of them, and you click on Open Images. So I'm not going to open them now. I'm just going to switch to Photoshop, and I'll walk you through the steps that we took to fully edit this photo. Okay, so now we are in Photoshop. The first layer here, that's the raw file before we did any raw adjustments. The second, this is just for comparison. This is what we did with just the raw adjustments. So you see that the difference is not drastic, but definitely the colors are cleaner, the feel is better, and then really the blues are, the sky, it's a little bit better as well. And also, you'll notice here, when I go to the crop tool, that this is how much we crop out of the file. So we just crop to the side of the sign, so we didn't have to remove it. It would be just too much work to remove it, so I didn't want to bother about it. And then I cropped it just above the road. So the road was like it's right here, and basically I cropped it so it's tighter. And I wanted to make it feel like a panoramic photo. Okay, so this is the cropping that we did. I'm going to press Escape to go back to the previous cropping that we had. Okay, V to go to the Move tool. Okay, so now my second frame is basically when I open the two files, I open them as layers within one file. So this is, let me remove the mask here for a second. So basically, see, this is the photo also from raw editing, but this is before and after. So this is with the light and with the light and without the light. And then we did some masking. So this is with mask. So I just basically painted on the mask to hide the photo from the layer underneath. I did align those layers manually because the perspective was a little bit different, and I had to adjust the files a little bit so that really what I care about is this alignment here is good. I didn't care so much about it because there was nothing there to hide. So this is basically where I try to align. And then I did the mask. The mask, if you look at it, it looks like it's something like this. So this is what the mask I did, just to make sure that everything kind of lines up nicely. So this is before. You can see there's a little bit of a shift, but unless you know how it was before, you will never know that something was done here. So that's why I was okay with it. The next one, the next layer is to just remove those branches here. So I just copied the little rectangle and did with a healing brush, just remove it. I first did the content aware fill, and then I did the healing brush to clean it up. The next layer is the liquify. So Sasha is already in great shape, being pregnant, but this was just to tighten up a little bit the dress here in the front and the back. So basically the curves are a little bit better defined. So that's all we did. The next one, we did the Nik color effects. Basically, we did the warm filter and the detail extractor in Nik. And then the next one, so this was the detail extractor and the warm glow. The next one, we did two graduated filters, and we did one with like a bluish greenish feel of the sky, and then we did the second one, which was a little bit darker. So we just made them twice. The next layer, we also in Nik, we ran a fog filter, and then we mask it out where we don't want, where we didn't want the fog to be. So if I remove the mask, basically you can see the fog is all over the frame, and with the mask, I just basically added the mask in the bottom of this valley, so that there's a little bit more dimension. So like, usually in the valley there's a little bit more fog sitting, so that's why I kind of added the fog to make it more interesting and for Sasha to stand out a little bit more in this photo. Next one, I added a curve, and this curve you can see is just midtones brought down. So if I remove the mask, basically the whole photo is darker, and then I just took a big brush, very soft, and like actually let me show you how I did it. So what I did, I took a B for brush, I made it as soft as I could, so 0 hardness, and then I make it very big, like this, and my foreground color is black, and all I did is just click once, twice, maybe 3 times, and that's it. And that's how I masked Sasha. So it's very soft, the graduation from the dark, from the above, the darker feel from the curve on the whole photo, and I just masked out Sasha. So basically, you see like everything gets darker except Sasha. Okay, the next one I did selective color, and this is for the dress. Basically, I wanted the dress to be a little bit brighter, so main thing was in the reds here, and I believe I did something in yellow. No, I didn't do anything in yellow. So just the reds. Basically, those are the adjustment for the red, just to make the red dress pop up more. Because you see, this is the original, and now the red dress comes out so much more vibrant. This is a very subtle. I believe this is just a blues. Yeah, I just darkened the blues by 3, so you may not even notice it on the screen. It's very subtle to make the blues a little bit darker. The next one is a group with 2 toning. So I did 2 gradient maps. Let me enable them. The first one is this blue and yellow, and I put it on soft light at a very low opacity. So let me show you what it does. This is before and after. It just adds the warmth to the midtones and cool downs the highlights and the shadows. So basically what it does at a very low opacity. And then my second one is this red in the shadows and green in the highlights, also in soft light at 11% opacity. So it's just, just add this cross-processed feel to the photo. This one was a dodging and burning layer. So this is a layer stem visible on luminosity, and all I did here is just to brighten. Let me see if I can zoom in to Sasha's feet. Basically, this layer, all I did is to brighten the feet a little bit, because they were darker because of the flash was not hitting Sasha's feet here so well. And then so this was brighter, but still the colors were not as good. You can see the skin is different from the feet, the color. So in this curves, I basically adjusted with curves, so that I have the same kind of colors, a little bit warmer color in their feet, in Sasha's feet. So basically that's all I did here. The next layer was high pass sharpen, and I sharpened just Sasha. So let me show you. And then how we do sharpen high pass is we do a medium gray layer, put it into soft light, and then we run the high pass filter on it. I think on this one we ran at 4%. And then we masked out so that we just sharpen Sasha. So if you look at the mask here, that's how the mask is. And if I do with the backslash to just see where I sharpen, so I sharpen Sasha's face, hair, just the edges of her dress, these parts of the dresses because there's some edges here, her feet, and that's it. Okay. The next one, I just lit up a little bit, I brought the highlights by really three points, because normally it's like a 255. I brought it to 252, basically to make the highlights a little bit brighter. And the last one was just the dodging. Oh, this is just adding noise. It's called really DNB, but it should be really called noise. It's also a medium gray layer, and I ran a noise, and I believe, let me see what noise I usually run at. I think this one I did like 5 because it's a larger file, so I think I ran the noise filter at 5. And that's really it. That's really the photo, the final result. We printed this photo, even large format, like at 17 by 22, and it actually looks amazing. So let me show you again. This is before, and this is after. So with, there's a good number of layers, but the steps are not very complicated. If you have any questions about any of the steps that I walked you through it, please leave a comment. I'm more than happy to explain anything that we did here. If you have any ideas how to improve even further this photo, also leave a comment. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. If you want to be notified when the new videos come up, just click on the little bell. And then we'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much, and talk to you soon.